Hello and welcome. I'm Saeed from storyplanet.net. Dive right into the essence of the most captivating books without reading them cover to cover. Whether you're on the go, at the gym, or just relaxing at home, we offer you a unique and enriching listening experience. Today, we are exploring the book Animal Farm, a creation by George Orwell. Animal Farm, a classic satirical novella published in 1945, effectively transports the events of the Russian Revolution of 1917 onto a quaint English farm. Following an uprising by the animals, a political power struggle emerges between Snowball, an idealistic pig, and Napoleon, a pig consumed by a thirst for power. Before we delve into these revelations, it's interesting to note that George Orwell is widely regarded as one of the most significant British writers of the 20th century. His works, including Animal Farm and 1984, 1949, are commonly featured on lists of the best books of the century. In addition to his literary achievements, Orwell was also a respected critic, essayist, and journalist. With 4 key ideas to unveil, brace yourself for a deep dive into this captivating book on storyplanet.net. To start, TLDR, a revolutionary classic, promises an enticing and rewarding experience for you. George Orwell's Animal Farm, a satirical novella that critiques Stalinist Russia, faced initial rejection from publishers due to its controversial subject matter. The book, with its thinly veiled references to key figures and events in Soviet history, was seen as potentially damaging to the relationship between Britain and Russia, who were allies at the time. However, Frederick Warburg of the Secker and Warburg Publishing House took the bold step of releasing the book in 1945, despite reservations from others in the firm. This decision proved fruitful, as Animal Farm and Orwell's later work, 1984, became highly acclaimed and influential literary works of the 20th century. Key idea number 1. In the opening scene of the play, the main character, Major, experiences a vivid and enchanting dream. All of the animals on Manor Farm were talking about one thing. Old Major had a dream. Apparently, it was so important that there was going to be a special meeting about it in the barn. Old Major was a 12-year-old prize-winning middle white boar who was held in the highest regard. He was the wise elder among them, and if he had something important to say, no one complained about losing an hour's sleep in order to hear what it was. Once the farmer, Mr. Jones, stumbled home drunk from the pub and fell asleep, the coast was clear and everyone was free to gather in the barn. From a slightly elevated platform, Old Major addressed the crowd from his bed of straw. In front of him were the hens, the sheep, the ducklings, the horses, the dogs, the pigs, the donkey, even the pigeons were all ears. Old Major cleared his throat and explained that part of his reason for this meeting was to describe the fantastic dream he had, but also the time had come to pass on his wisdom. He was an old boar, and his days were numbered. But from his years of experience, he believed he had come to understand the nature of life as well as any other creature alive. And the nature of life was miserable, laborious, and short. As the stout old boar made clear, the life of an animal in England was that of cruel slavery. They were forced into strenuous work and fed the bare minimum. Then, when they were no longer of service, they were brutally slaughtered. And what was the cause of all this misery? Well, quite simply, man. Man serves his interests, and his interests alone. Man is the only beast who consumes and produces nothing. Man doesn't provide milk or eggs. He's not strong enough to pull a plow or fast enough to catch rabbits. He uses and abuses animals for these purposes, and it all goes down his throat or is turned into profit. For their toil, all the animals get are meager rations and a cold, dry place to sleep. Old Major then gets to his main point and says, "This is my message to you, comrades. Rebellion. We must work to overthrow the human race. It may not happen tomorrow or even 100 years from now, but justice will eventually prevail, and in the meantime, we must spread the word. Tell every animal that we will no longer work under the cruel thumb of man, that we can and will work for our own benefit, that one day we will be free and wealthy from our own efforts. Tell them we can be united in our struggle and our reward, that all men are enemies and all animals are comrades. Cheers broke out in the barn. A vote was quickly held in which nearly everyone, save for a couple cats and dogs, unanimously agreed that even wild animals such as rabbits and rats were to be considered comrades. Old Major then laid the foundational principles of their rebellion, what would become known as the Seven Commandments. Finally, Old Major began to talk about the dream he had. It was a vision of a world without man. He could not accurately describe the details of the dream, but he could describe the song the dream invoked. It was a song his mother used to sing, though she could not remember all the words. It was a song lost to past generations, but in his dream, Old Major heard every last verse. He then proceeded to teach the animals the song called Beasts of England. Its verses painted the scene of a golden future time, when the fruitful fields of England would be trod by beasts alone. It resonated with every animal in the barn, and they sang it over and over until they memorized every line. Key idea number 2. In Scene 2, known as the Battle of the Cowshed, a fierce conflict erupts on the farm. The animals successfully defend themselves against an attack by neighboring humans, showcasing their strength and determination. After Old Major's death, the pigs, particularly Napoleon, Snowball, and Squealer, took charge of preparing for the rebellion. They taught themselves to read and write and developed a system of thought called animalism. One day in June, when Mr. Jones and his workers neglected to feed the animals, they revolted and drove the humans away. The animals destroyed the tools of their oppression and renamed the farm Animal Farm. Snowball wrote the 7 commandments on the barn wall, and the animals worked hard to tend to the harvest. Despite disagreements between Napoleon and Snowball, the animals worked harmoniously and enjoyed the fruits of their labor. They had Sundays off and held meetings to plan and make resolutions. Snowball taught the animals to read and write, and even the less educated animals learned a simplified version of animalism. Meanwhile, Napoleon took an interest in training a group of puppies for his own purposes. In October, when Mr. Jones returned with other men, Snowball led the animals in a successful attack against the intruders. After the victory, the animals celebrated and awarded honors to Snowball and Boxer. They also commemorated the Battle of the Cowshed. Key idea number 3. In Scene 3 of Animal Farm, Snowball is forcefully exiled from the farm by Napoleon and his loyal followers. This act highlights the growing power struggle between Snowball and Napoleon, as well as the manipulation and tyranny that emerge in the aftermath of the animals' rebellion. After the Battle of the Cowshed, the animals of Animal Farm faced a difficult winter. The pigs, who had taken responsibility for managing the farm, decided to prioritize apples and milk for themselves, claiming it was necessary for their well-being. The pigs also asserted their authority in making decisions on farm policy despite disagreements with Snowball. Snowball proposed the idea of building a windmill for the farm, but Napoleon campaigned against it and drove Snowball away. Napoleon then took control and justified his actions by claiming he was protecting the farm from enemies. While some animals questioned Napoleon's decisions, they were reassured by Squealer's explanations. The animals worked hard on building the windmill, with Boxer the horse showing great dedication. However, a storm destroyed the windmill, and Napoleon blamed Snowball for the damage. The animals were told that Snowball had been colluding with humans all along, and Napoleon instilled fear and executed those who questioned his authority. The commandments were modified to suit Napoleon's actions, and the animals were no longer allowed to sing the song of the rebellion. Key idea number 4. In Scene 4, titled The Return of Manor Farm, the story takes us back to the farm where it all began. This scene serves as a pivotal moment, showcasing the cycles of power and the return of old ways. The animals are faced with the harsh reality of corruption as they observe the humans' greedy intentions. Ultimately, this scene reveals the disillusionment and betrayal that can accompany the pursuit of power. After the executions, Napoleon's title changed to Our Leader, Comrade Napoleon. A poem and portrait were made in his honor. Rumors of an attack by Mr. Frederick circulated, but spirits remained high. The windmill, now named Napoleon Mill, was completed, but the humans destroyed it. The animals fought bravely, but there were casualties. Squealer called it a victory, Napoleon started beer production and changed the commandment about alcohol consumption. Animal Farm became a republic, and Napoleon was elected president. Boxer fell ill and was taken away in a cart that revealed he was destined for slaughter. The animals were lied to about his fate. The pigs became wealthy and bought land. A pig was seen walking on two legs, and the commandments were changed. The pigs began acting like humans, and the farm was renamed Manor Farm. In conclusion, Animal Farm is a classic novella that vividly illustrates the emergence of Stalinism in Russia by depicting a farm in England. Animals, seeking a fairer society, overthrow their human oppressors and establish Animal Farm. However, their ambitions are tainted as one pig, Napoleon, seizes power and subverts the farm's utopian aspirations. Slowly but steadily, Animal Farm regresses into its former state, with Napoleon reaping the rewards. Thank you for listening to this summary. If you enjoyed this exploration, we invite you to discover other fascinating books on storyplanet.net. Don't wait any longer. A multitude of books, stories, and knowledge await you there. See you soon on storyplanet.net.